Good evening, I'm Jeff Lyons. It is Friday night here, July the 23rd. Is it still the 23rd? I just had it, the 24th. How about that? Time for the 14First Alert Weather Show at 9. If you'd like to comment in, you can do that on the 14 News Facebook page in the comments section. Pretty nice evening out there. It's a little more humid than we've had. And looking ahead, we should see lows tonight in the low 70s or upper 60s. At more humid air doesn't cool quite as much. We also have southerly winds coming in, and that will feed into some isolated showers and storms overnight and through tomorrow morning, and then again on Sunday. And then we have new alert days for Monday and Tuesday, as that heat index may climb into the triple digits again. The radar is fairly quiet. We've had these little showers kind of showing up out there, but really not much has come of them other than, just a little brief sprinkle or shower. A little broader inspection, though. We're quiet to the west, but we are expecting a few showers and storms to develop overnight, and those will then dive through here early in the day on Saturday, and then potentially more showers or storms popping during the afternoon. These are going to be very widely scattered, so not everybody will see rain. Don't cancel your plans and don't freak out. Generally good advice for life. To our east, by Monday, we have a decaying squall line that will drop through, and that may bring a little more rain across the tri-state. Of course, the bigger story will be the return of the heat on Monday and Tuesday, low 90s to mid 90s. That will put our heat index up here into that 105 to 107 degree range. And in addition to that, we may have air quality concerns again next week if the plume of smoke from the Canadian wildfires makes it in. Now, by Sunday night, we're showing actually a little thicker smoke or more concentrated, and that could lead to that air quality climbing into the unhealthy for sensitive groups range. We're at 73 right now, and temperatures all over the area are in the 70s, low 70s, excuse me. And the feels like temperatures are about the same too, so really not an issue. We hit 61 this morning, not quite as cool as that 59 yesterday, but still, it's decent out there. And then we hit 81 today for the high. For July now, we stand with 81 today, so we've kind of had half and half here. Of course, we had that run of 90-degree heat that started last Wednesday and came to an end Tuesday with those storms. No rain though, and that means for the month we're behind now by about 2.6 inches. And the drought classification here on the drought monitor did not change. We still have sufficient moisture. However, if we don't get rain in the coming week, and I don't think we're going to see much, if any, then yeah, we'll probably go back over into abnormally dry and might even see some early drought signs across the tri-state. For the commute tomorrow, maybe a little rain early, and after we clear out, temperatures will then climb into the middle 80s. All the active weather tonight up here in the arrowhead of Minnesota, up here around Duluth, and International Falls will be right there, and then down into South Dakota. For the hour by hour here in the tri-state, you see just, kind of what we like to call the radar rash. You have just little pop-up showers coming and going, but that's about it. And same thing on Sunday. There's that squall line dropping through, kind of an interesting feature to see whether or not that actually happens. Models have a really tough time with those squall lines, developing them first and then showing an accurate placement and timing on them. Next week then we are dry and quiet all the way across the board, at least through Wednesday and Thursday, save a couple of isolated pop-up type showers. And the European model is going to show us the same thing. Overall rain amounts, now we're showing up to an inch over the next 7 days, but practically I don't know that we're going to even see half of that, if any of it, this coming week. 68 degrees tonight with cloudy skies, and tomorrow we get up to 84. We'll have some scattered storms, as I mentioned. No severe weather. We're in good shape there. We don't have the dynamics, none of the elements that we would need for severe weather will be present tomorrow, other than it'll be warm and humid. And then the alert days Monday and Tuesday there for possibly a heat advisory with 105 to 110 degree heat index. Precip and temperatures all normal, and that gets us up to Harley and Elvis here for Q&A time, our pet pick tonight. So we'll see what's on your mind this evening. I thought I had us here. There we are. Okay. All righty, here we go with questions and comments. Laura Gray watching from Dawson Springs. Hey, Laura. Suzanne Daly. Got a few drops of rain in Morganfield. I'll bet you did. Yeah, I saw that go across earlier. Cheyenne Hammonds is on. Hey, Cheyenne. And Laura says it sprinkled down in Hopkins County there in Dawson earlier. Misty Sensmeyer, it sprinkled in Mount Vernon. See, everybody's getting these sprinkles. Jeanette Rice, good evening. How are you, Jeanette? Jeff Miller. Dan Lees is on. Hey. Carmen Lorraine Craig says good evening. All right, well, good evening to everybody. I can't remember who got me riled up about time zones yesterday, but just to kind of put a point on it all, I did want to briefly go through again what I was ranting about last night. This will be a nice compact, the kids can watch this one. I won't get all agitated again. The interesting thing about the Earth, I think all of us would agree it's round, right? A sphere. And it's 360 degrees all the way around. There are 24 hours in a day. So if you do the math, that comes out to 15 if you divide them, right? So the way the Earth is divided for time zones is roughly every 15 degrees of longitude. And those are the lines that run north to south across the country. Latitude goes this way. We're at about 38 degrees north latitude here in the tri-state and at about 88.5, I think, 88.7 west. Anyway, because of that, each time zone then is about 750 miles wide. So if you start over here at the Greenwich Meridian, or the prime meridian, which is 0 degrees longitude, that's where the day, where the time starts, right? So each time zone you go away from the Greenwich Meridian, you subtract an hour. So right now, I think here in daylight time, we are -7, if I'm not mistaken. And then if we look at the United States, if we apply this every 15 degrees of longitude idea to set our time zones, and again, this is using the Greenwich Meridian as a starting point, that lines up the lines for the time zones where I've placed them here, and then the actual zones are in the color. So Indiana should all be in the central time zone. In an ideal, just scientific, we're just dividing it up. We don't care where you live. This is where the line's going to go. Well, that's all well and good, but like we would divide Detroit in half. That's not practical. Part of Toledo would be on one side. In Knoxville, same thing. Atlanta would straddle a time zone, 2 time zones, and you don't want that, right? So as a practical matter, then the time zones were kind of drawn to conform more to political boundaries on here, the boundaries between the states. So ideally, because Indiana has, a perfect north-south dividing line between Ohio, you would just move the eastern time zone there, and then so Ohio would be eastern, Indiana, and of course Illinois, and most of Kentucky would be in the central time zone. It would cut Kentucky in half. All the states that are shaped that way run the risk of getting cut in half a lot of times. And so the end result would be like someplace like Ashland or Pikeville or Hazard would be in the eastern zone, and everybody else would be central. Well, that's how it should look if you were just drawing lines. Well, as I said, because you can't just draw lines, you have to consider the people. The time zones now look kind of like this. Not kind of, this is what the time zones look like. And if you will, they've been gerrymandered a bit, right? They've been kind of stretched to the benefit of some. And in our case, in Indiana, the time zone was pulled from where it should be, which is way over here along the Ohio border, all the way 168 miles here to line up with the Illinois border, at least through most of the state. Now we have a few counties here in southwest Indiana that belong to Central, and a few up here by Chicago that belong in Central Time. And because the time zones have been shifted a lot to the east in many cases, people that live right along the western edge of a time zone will have the latest sunrises, right? Because we've moved the clock ahead an hour, and now, because of the way the sun comes up, the earth is turning that way. Well, what it all boils down to is if we kept daylight saving time, that is to say we wouldn't move, you wouldn't spring forward and fall back, you'd leave the clock where it is right now, that means that in the wintertime, that shortest day of the year, around December the 21st, our latest sunrise would be at 8:06 a.m., all right? And the earliest sunset would be at 5:30. So you get that light during the afternoon. Normally the sun goes down at about 4:30 during the shortest time of the year. And people don't like that for a variety of reasons. But the real sticky wicket here comes with these counties that butt up against the eastern or the western edge of a time zone. So in our case, Petersburg, Jasper, Washington, Vincennes, Lagodi, your latest sunrise would be at 9:30 in the morning. Now, I don't think anybody really signed up for that. Because of holding daylight saving time all the time. And conversely, your latest sunset in the summertime would be at 9:30 p.m. And so you really stretch the day going the other direction. And so this is why, at least in the past, the idea of staying either on Central all the time or daylight time all the time doesn't work, right? And so people don't like it, and then there's blowback. And so laws have been changed many times over the years to try to accommodate everybody. And the compromise solution is moving your clock twice a year, which all of a sudden has become a huge effort for somebody. All right. Laura Gray, in Kentucky, the eastern time zone starts in Hardin County, which is E-Town, right over this way. Right there, let's see, Louisville will be right here. So yeah, you were right. And you'll notice it kind of kicks out here. The Central goes into it because county, like Nashville, for example, wanted to stay on Central Time. And just by all rights, if you go north of any point here in the Central Zone, it should be Central going all the way up. Anytime you have it intruding that far, it really doesn't make much sense. Dan Lees, I remember when most of Indiana stayed the same year-round while we did daylight savings. It was weird because my grandparents lived in Indy, so I had to figure out if they're on the same time or an hour ahead for travel. Right, in the summertime, we would be here, we being the tri-state, Evansville, would be the same time as Indianapolis. But it was because in Indianapolis, they didn't move the clocks. They observed standard time year-round and Eastern time. You get it? So normally all the time zones would move ahead an hour. So Indiana said, well, yeah, we're going to stay on Eastern time, but we're not going to move our clock. So there's that 6-month period where you lined up, where the whole state was on the same clock time, but not in the same time zone. It will give you a headache if you really think about this. Zach Seats, good evening. Is there widespread rain or thunderstorm activity for Evansville next week, Monday and Tuesday? I don't think so. I think it's just going to be hot and humid. We could get some pop-up showers, but not organized severe weather. At least we're not thinking in terms of that right now. So anyway, I hope this cleared up or maybe muddied up the time issue. But what it really boils down to is how late do you want that latest sunrise to be? And, at 9:30 in the morning, I mean, you think about that, school starts, at 8? So the first hour and a half of school, it would still be dark or twilight out there. Now, it would be light when you went home, and right now, if you stay after for, basketball practice or play practice, extracurriculars, it's dark when you leave. So, it might be 6 of one, half dozen of another. I would prefer to at least have the hope that there was some light, if I'm getting out of bed at 6:30 or 7. So you can haggle among your neighbors and friends and family members and figure out what would be the best solution. But I'm going to say that at least for my money's worth, I want all of Indiana to be on Central Time and to observe daylight saving time like we always do, and keep the time zone in Kentucky right where it is. Kentucky seems to be perfectly happy with the way the line is drawn. In Illinois, you don't have to worry about it because you have a nice big state and it's always going to be all Central Time. So let's just agree we can move our clocks and not gripe about it and come up with something else. You see, this is why I would never be elected for anything, because that's, you know, that's not a spin, that's not talking points, it's just common sense. All right, now see, you got me going again here. I knew that would happen. All right, we'll let you go here. I don't want to foul your weekend, so have a good one. Stay safe. I will see you on 14 News at 10.